what's going to stop this dollar?
Well, I think it's going to be very difficult to arrest the dollar's advance in the current environment, assuming that the data remains relatively constructive. There's not a huge amount this week, but I think we need to look particularly to the forward-looking confidence data tomorrow in terms of the IBD TIPP and Michigan on Friday. But unless those data points start to subside, then I think it's going to be very difficult to arrest the advance of the dollar, with probably the only real caveat to traditional or ongoing gains could well be the degree of positioning and also a degree of seasonality as we go towards the end of the year. So I think those are the two caveats, but I think until we get beyond the Fed decision next week, unless we see some kind of negative surprise, the dollar continues to be the beneficiary.
All right. Did I mentioned the Italy downgrade? Did that come as a shock, and how big a blow was that, and what does that do to euro?
Well, it certainly doesn't help, and I think it just underlines the structural problems and structural issues that parts of Europe still have. It's undeniably a real shot across the bows for Matteo Renzi, who's trying to push forward a reformist agenda, and I think it's tough in order for him to pursue that when he's getting this sort of negative headlines and negative externalities. I think probably there's still more issues, in particular in relation to structural reforms, more so in France than necessarily in Italy per se. But I think it's just another caveat in terms of the whole euro negativity story, because of course as the structural pressures or concerns come that much closer to the core of Europe, then that really means international investors are still going to remain pretty shy of holding euros. And I think if we don't see a substantial take-up in the TL trade this week, that will just underline the building pressure on the ECB.
And Germany keeps saying its poor data is only temporary, but it keeps coming. Do you think it's going to pick up again, and when do you think it's going to pick up again?
Well, I think there may be a case that the Eurozone negativity could be coming a little bit too extreme. Certainly we saw the ECB taking an axe to its forecasts last week. I think over time the benefits of the structural reforms and also the much lower cost of financing across Europe may well actually start to have an impact, as well as a euro which is now slightly on the cheap side of fair value. So it may be the case that the Eurozone and or the German economies may well find a little bit of a bottom, but that bottom may not be seen perhaps until the second quarter of next year. So we may well still have further euro negativity to go based on the fundamentals, because of course without Germany being the locomotive of growth, there isn't a lot else to really drive Europe forward.